The wife who built my empire from scratch with me had become insatiable. She had started sizing on my company. Now that the money was rolling in, she wanted to devour it whole. Fine. If that's what you want, I'll give you a gift. A chance for you and your lover to be together for the rest of your lives. Forever. I hope you like it. You thought you were being so clever, so discreet. But I've known all along. Now you can tear each other apart while I watch from the wings. You'll learn the hard way who gets the last laugh. I won't let you live comfortably, and I won't give you the mercy of a quick end. In some cartel black site south of the border, you'll have the rest of your miserable life to repent. 1-inch Mr. Julian Cole. We're from the District Court of Denver. You're being sued for contract fraud. This is a subpoena. Please ensure you appear on the scheduled date. The process server was professional, almost crisp, but his words sent a chill through the office air. The amount involved in this case is substantial. We must ask for your cooperation. Please refrain from leaving the Denver metropolitan area unless absolutely necessary. I raised an eyebrow, my eyes scanning the document with a flicker of bitter amusement. A half-smile played on my lips as I leisurely signed my name, my expression a mask of calm. Once they had what they needed, the men nodded curtly, took the signed acknowledgement, and left. The moment their figures vanished down the hall, the corridor filled with the craning necks and hushed whispers of my employees. The old saying about rats fleeing a sinking ship was on full display. You could feel the storm brewing in the low murmurs echoing from every cubicle. When I was on top, my orbit was crammed with sycophants. And now, they couldn't get away from me fast enough. The contrast was, frankly, pathetic. Did you hear? Sounds like Mr. Cole is finally going down. Tangled up in some massive financial lawsuits. Are you kidding? Haven't you seen how slammed the legal and sales departments have been, and how secretive they're being about it? I can't believe it. I heard the liability is in the hundreds of millions. No way he gets out of this. He's probably looking at prison time. Employees huddled in small groups, their voices low and conspiratorial. By my office door, my assistant, Mark, looked like he could chew nails. He stared daggers at the gossiping staff, his face a storm cloud. He knew the truth. He'd seen the evidence. The allegations were pure fiction. This was all part of the trap. Julian, do you think we need to do some damage control? Settle everyone down? Mark's concern was genuine. He'd been with me since the beginning, fiercely loyal to me and the company we'd built. I shook my head, my gaze lost in the harsh sunlight glinting off my desk. You're too close to it, Mark. Don't let this noise disrupt the real plan. I waved my hand, dismissing him. Just then, the office door flew open and a slender figure rushed in. Isabel Vance, her eyes red-rimmed with tears, threw herself into my arms. Julian, none of this is true, is it? Don't worry, I'll do whatever it takes to help you through this. Mark stood awkwardly to the side before offering a quiet, rehearsed explanation. Mrs. Cole, the situation is real. We're facing some legal disputes with a few partners. But please, rest assured, we're doing everything in our power to resolve it. Mark, ever the professional, his words were meant to be comforting, but they were laced with a perfectly calibrated dose of despair. Watching Isabel leave, a trail of tear-streaked mascara in her wake. Mark's expression softened with a hint of pity. Sir, she seems genuinely worried about you. Are you absolutely sure about this? Going through with this could seriously damage the company. I thought about Isabel's performance just now. The ruined makeup, the carefully disheveled appearance of a woman pushed to her emotional brink. Sometimes, I truly couldn't tell if this woman was a brilliant actress or if she had ever actually loved me. I was leaning heavily toward the former, but it didn't matter anymore. The decision was made. The wheels were in motion. We're not discussing it again, Mark. And one more thing. Stall the court proceedings as long as you legally can. It's better to let this play out for a while. Seeing my resolve, Mark said no more and quietly closed the door behind him. I thought of Isabel's act, and a self-deprecating smile twisted my lips. My eyes fell to the subpoena on my desk. Isabel, Isabel, I murmured to the empty room. The moment you made your move, you had to know I would never let you get away with it. Growing up, I was the kid everyone's parents wanted them to be. Straight-A student from a decent, middle-class family. The one area I was a complete idiot in was relationships. I never felt that spark. It wasn't for a lack of offers. I just coldly turned them all down. By the time I made my first real money, I viewed anyone who got close with suspicion. I was terrified they were only after my wealth. Until Isabel. She was different. She never pushed, never demanded. She was just there. She had an uncanny ability to find me at my most vulnerable and offer the perfect words of comfort. She knew my favorite foods, my routines, my tells. No matter how late I worked, if I needed her, she'd be there with a smile that could melt steel. Isabel filled a void inside me I didn't even know I had. Her gentle, unwavering support slowly dismantled the walls I'd built around myself. For 5 years, she never once brought up marriage. She waited until her own marketing firm was successful, and then, without a moment's hesitation, she offered to merge it with my company. That was the moment I fell completely. I planned the most elaborate proposal I could imagine. She brought her company as a dowry. I gave her 20% of my company's stock as a wedding gift. If only things had stayed that way, it would have been a perfect life. But reality has a sick sense of humor. My days were a blur of meetings and contracts, flying from one coast to the other to close deals. I'll admit it, I neglected her. But I never imagined the woman sleeping next to me was meticulously plotting my complete ruin. 3 Mark knocked and entered with a file. "Mr. Cole, here is the equity transfer agreement you requested. It's all fully compliant and legal." I nodded. Some things didn't need to be said out loud. In my world, there is no forgiveness for betrayal. Go over those other contracts one last time. I want them airtight. And give me the divorce papers as soon as possible. She's leaving with nothing but the clothes on her back. I was well aware that our assets were deeply intertwined, but almost everything was held under the company's name. For a trader, leaving with nothing was just the beginning. When I got home that night, Isabel was waiting for me, just like always. She looked exhausted, but behind the fatigue, I caught a glint of calculation in her eyes. Seeing me, she stood and glided over, her expression a perfect portrait of wifely devotion. "Julian, don't worry. I won't let them destroy everything we've built." Her words were drowned out by the scent of a man's cologne clinging to her clothes. It was a sharp, citrusy fragrance one I never wore. It felt like a needle driving straight into my chest. "Don't worry," I said, my voice eerily calm. "The company will be fine." The smile I forced onto my face was strained, a perfect impersonation of a man on the verge of bankruptcy. "Julian, no matter what happens, we'll face it together," Isabel said, her voice thick with emotion. I just smiled and said nothing. "Oh, Isabel, you have no idea what you're about to lose." Using the excuse of an all-nighter at the office, I packed a bag with a few days' worth of clothes and left. I couldn't stay in that house any longer. I was afraid I might actually kill her. For sitting in my car, my mind drifted back. If it hadn't been for that discovery 2 months ago, I'd still be the oblivious, trusting fool. Isabel had been wanting to try a new, trendy restaurant that had just opened downtown. I finally managed to clear my schedule and booked a table weeks in advance. To be honest, I never cared much for that kind of romantic fanfare, but if it made Isabel happy, I was happy to do it. That night, she seemed happy, but also distracted. Throughout the meal, I doted on her, trying to create a perfect evening. The lighting was low, the atmosphere intimate. Isabel wrapped her arms around my neck, her voice syrupy sweet. "I must have done something incredible in a past life to deserve a husband like you." I just smiled, my heart full. Back then, my world revolved around her. I didn't know then that another man had already entered her life, Carter Finch. After dinner, Isabel suggested we grab coffee, saying it had been too long since we'd just relaxed together. But the mood was different. She spent the whole time with her head down, typing furiously on her phone, a small smile playing on her lips. "What's so funny?" I asked, a hint of annoyance in my voice. As I leaned in to see, she instinctively snapped the screen off and snuggled against my chest. "Oh, it's nothing. Just that project I've been working on. We're making some really good progress." A seed of doubt was planted, but I pushed it down and smiled. "It's just one deal. Let the team handle it. You don't need to work so hard." She pouted, half joking, half complaining. "I can't do that. You're so busy building this empire, I have to pull my weight too. What if you decide you don't need me anymore?" At the time, I didn't think twice. Isabel had always been ambitious. It made sense she'd want to conquer the business world on her own terms. I laughed, and reassured her, swearing that I only worried because I didn't want her to burn out, that I would always need her. Thinking back on it now, the irony is nauseating. She had the audacity to talk about her lover right to my face, cloaked under the guise of a business partner, confident I would never find out. If it weren't for my head of legal flagging a suspicious contract, I might have stayed blind forever. I might never have believed that Isabel, my wife, was planning to kick me out of my own life. 5 that day, when I got to the office, Mr. Davison from the legal department was waiting for me, his face grim. "Davison, what's up?" He looked like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. My stomach tightened. I unlocked my office and gestured for him to come in. "Let's hear it." Davison pulled a photocopied document from his briefcase and handed it to me. I took it confused. Then my brow furrowed. Something was very wrong. The loopholes in this contract were big enough to drive a truck through. "You see it too, Mr. Cole. Isabel, Mrs. Cole, brought this to us. She said you'd already approved it. I couldn't bring myself to sign off, so I had to bring it directly to you." Davison's words felt like a punch to the gut. Isabel brought this. This wasn't her style. From day one, company policy was ironclad. Every contract goes through legal for review, then to my desk for final approval. Thank God for Davison's diligence. He didn't let it slide just because she was my wife. "Okay, I understand. You did the right thing. Kill this version. I want to draft a new one. This time, load it with traps. I want to see who's brave enough to try and screw me over." Davison nodded and left. After a moment's thought, I walked out of my office too. Acting casual, I went to the break room across from Isabel's office to make a coffee. I took my time, deliberately slow. Through the glass wall, I could see Isabel on the phone. Whatever the person on the other end was saying, it was clearly making her happy. A few minutes later, she grabbed her coat, ready to leave. She saw me by the coffee machine, and her expression faltered, a flicker of awkwardness crossing her face before being replaced by a look of apology. "Honey, I have to run. The partners on that project I told you about want to sign today. I'll have to miss our lunch." I smiled and nodded, putting on a show of reluctant understanding. "Is it that big of a deal? Can't you send someone from the sales team? I hate seeing you run around like this." I made a move to call my assistant. Isabel quickly grabbed my arm, shooting me a playful glare. "Julian, I'm not made of glass. I was the one who initiated this deal, so I should be the one to see it through." As if sensing my skepticism, she added in a softer, coaxing tone, "I just don't want you to carry all the weight by yourself. Relax. I'll be back before you know it." I sighed dramatically and let my hand fall. "All right, fine. Go. But call me when you're done. We'll grab dinner." She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. "Deal." I watched her walk away, a cold smile forming on my face. Now we'd see if they noticed the traps in the new contract Davison was drafting. Honestly, I didn't expect them to sign it. Anyone who read it carefully would see it was a legal minefield. I had just started tackling a pile of paperwork when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark. He had moved fast. That morning, I'd had him hire a private investigator to keep an eye on Isabel. I opened the message. He already had something. It was a video clip and a few photos. My jaw tightened as I pressed play. The contents made my blood boil. In the photos, Isabel and Carter Finch were wrapped in an embrace. What a cliché. The video was grainy, clearly shot from a distance. The audio was faint, but I could make out their words. "Babe, Julian Cole really is a trusting fool. He's going to sign a contract with holes this obvious without even looking at it," Carter said, holding the document. He was so giddy he didn't even bother to read it closely. Isabel's laugh was bright and clear. "Of course. Once this is signed, the whole company is mine. Then we can have anything we want. If he wasn't such a genius at making money, I never would have married him in the first place." The rest of their conversation was even more vile. They must have remembered they were in a public place because they restrained themselves from doing anything more explicit. But I felt nothing but an icy calm. She was coming after my entire company. A tawdry affair was nothing compared to that. Listening to their vulgar, triumphant chatter, only one thought echoed in my mind. I will not let them live well, and I will not let them die easy. If I send them to hell, it will only be after they have been through absolute misery. I stared blankly at the investigation file Mark had placed on my desk. According to the report, Carter Finch was Isabel's old college flame. Back then, he was the big man on campus. Isabel had asked him out several times, but he'd always turned her down. So what was this? Payback for unrequited love. They had reconnected last year. Carter's firm had a partnership with mine. He must have seen the scale of my operation and gotten greedy. I could say with certainty that I had never mistreated Isabel. Despite my insane work schedule, I always carved out time for her. She wanted for nothing materially. I had given her everything, and she still chose to betray me. For a moment, I didn't know if I should feel lucky for finding out early, or like a complete fool for being such a poor judge of character. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. I thought about the past year, about Isabel's seemingly endless affection and gentle smiles, and a wave of nausea washed over me. That woman had never loved anyone but herself. Now I had two choices. I could end them both now, or I could play with them for a while before I ended them. It was a subtle distinction, but I felt like Isabel deserved a choice. Then I laughed. No, it didn't matter what she would choose. Betrayal is the one sin that can never be washed away. Knock, knock, knock. The door opened, and Isabel walked in. She slipped off her coat and handed me a thermos with a practiced ease. Julian, whatever is happening, you still need to eat. I smiled faintly and pulled her into my arms. She didn't resist. Her eyes scanned the mountain of documents on my desk, her expression clouding with worry. What's wrong? Is it really that bad? I shook my head, avoiding the question. After a pause, I decided to test her. Isabel, if I went bankrupt, would you leave me? She froze for a second. A strained smile crept onto her face as she pulled away from my embrace. Her voice was tight. Of course not. I only love you. The whole world could abandon you, but I never would. I swear it. Honey, why are you suddenly asking me this? Inside, I scoffed at her. I only love you. But my face remained a perfect mask of vulnerability. I shook my head again. I don't want to drag you down with me. Isabel let out a breath she seemed to have been holding. She reached out and gently stroked my hair. Don't be scared. I'm not going anywhere. I can't live without you. You know that. I looked in her deep, soulful eyes and felt a sharp, stabbing pain. She couldn't live without me. Or more accurately, my money. The video wasn't fake. The triumphant smile on her face when she spoke those venomous words was real. Fine. She's a great actress. I'll play along. I took the thermos and quickly ate the food inside. Seeing her yawn, I stood up. You've had a long day, too. I had to pull an all-nighter to get through this. I'll have the driver take you home. Isabel didn't say anything, but my sudden change in behavior clearly unsettled her. A flicker of unease crossed her face. She was confident she had covered her tracks with Carter, but something was off, and she could feel it. As the car's taillights disappeared down the street, a smirk spread across my face. Isabel really couldn't wait to get away. If I was right, she came tonight to gauge how bad things really were. And she wouldn't be going home. Otherwise, there was no reason to refuse the driver I offered. Things played out exactly as I expected. The private investigator was earning every penny. Isabel left my office and drove straight to Carter Finch's apartment. After a quick look around to make sure no one was watching, she slipped inside. I don't know how the PI did it, but he managed to get audio from inside. The moment the door closed, they fell on each other. After their sordid business was done, the conversation turned back to my company. Babe, do you really think Julian can pull through this? If the company actually goes under, our contract is worthless, Carter worried. Isabel was silent for a long moment before she spoke. I don't know. It looks bad. The legal team is working around the clock. When I was there tonight, his desk was buried in contracts. And the look in his eyes, I don't think he was faking it. Carter took a deep breath, his voice full of mock sympathy. Then you need to divorce him. Now, if this is real, he's going to be on the hook for billions. Isabel frowned. Carter, if I divorce him now, I'll get nothing. All our assets are tied up in the company. If I demand my share, I'll have to take on my share of the debt, too. Carter chuckled. Who cares? You still have that house in Cherry Creek North, right? Just take the house and walk away. We've siphoned off plenty of cash this past year. It's more than enough for us to live on. You don't need to go down with this sinking ship. And if the company survives, he continued, the contract we have will still let us carve off a huge piece. We win either way. Carter's words made Isabel pause and think. It was true. The money she had already moved was enough to guarantee a life of luxury. She didn't need to suffer alongside Julian. Her youth was meant for enjoyment, not for paying off someone else's debts. She, Isabel Vance, was just a normal girl who had chosen Julian for his money. It was only natural that she would leave him now that the money was gone. The thought of a normal, average life, the kind other people lived, was unbearable to her. Carter's reappearance in her life had watered the seeds of greed that were already there. At first, he had filled the void when Julian was away, taking her to fancy dinners, movies, and on weekend trips. He fed her vanity and gave her the emotional validation she craved. Soon, it spiraled into something she couldn't control. The thought of a future filled with endless debt terrified her. She was afraid of losing everything. Mark, my assistant, had been dispatched on a special assignment. He returned 10 days later. Following my instructions, he had taken care of everything. The company was my life's work. I would never hand it over to anyone. Julian, it's all set. When do you want to make the move? I let out a soft laugh. The hearing is in a month. Let's file the breach of contract lawsuit against Finch's company the day after. The timing will be perfect. Mark nodded. And the divorce? I nodded back. Yes, let's get it done in the next few days. She wants the house in Cherry Creek? Give it to her. It's harder to track a rat with no fixed address. If she runs, it complicates things. It was true. I had no intention of letting them get off easy. Death would be a release for them. Over the past 10 days, Isabel had come by the office daily at first. Then it was just phone calls. Yesterday, there wasn't even a call. I wasn't blind. I could see the change in her. Initially, her face was a mask of anxiety. But slowly, she began to distance herself from the company's problems. Even when we were in the same room, you could feel an awkward, unbridgeable gap between us. A couple of weeks of turmoil was all it took to reveal her true colors. I pulled the divorce agreement from my desk drawer. The time was right. Isabel, I hope this is the surprise you were hoping for. When she heard I was ready to talk, she dropped all pretenses. She arrived with Carter Finch at her side. The three of us sat facing each other in my office. Carter opened with a challenge. Julian Cole, you know who I am, right? I nodded, saying nothing. Then you should also know that the contract you signed with my company comes with a hefty penalty for breaking it. But I'll be generous. You divorce Isabel, give her the house in Cherry Creek, and she walks away with zero liability for your debts. I remained silent. Thinking he had already won, Carter pressed his advantage. If you know what's good for you, I might even take pity on you when you're bankrupt and call off the dogs. Otherwise, you can get ready for a long stay in a federal prison. Isabel already told me, he sneered. She has no intention of suffering with you. Don't think you're still the high and mighty Julian Cole. You're nothing but a cornered rat. After his little speech, Carter looked at me with a triumphant grin. My gaze shifted to Isabel. Is this what you want too? She didn't speak. Her silence was all the answer I needed. I found the whole situation laughable. Were they really this desperate? This kind of blatant greed was just ugly. But the inevitable had arrived. Perhaps afraid I had misunderstood her silence, Isabel finally spoke. Julian, let's get a divorce. I nodded. Fine. You'll get your terms. Isabel seemed stunned by my immediate agreement. She stared at me, bewildered. With a speed that clearly shocked her, I slid 2 documents across the desk. The divorce agreement and a stock transfer agreement for her shares in the company, which, of course, came with a proportional share of its endless, crushing debt. Are we done here? If so, you can go. Sign the papers. I'll have my assistant file everything. My words choked off whatever she was about to say next. Finally, Isabel just stared at me, completely lost. She seemed to be realizing that things were spiraling far beyond her control. 3 days before the court hearing, the divorce decree I had been waiting for was finalized. When Mark delivered it, he also brought some good news. Mr. Cole, Isabel, and Carter Finch got married this morning. Our lawyers are ready to file the breach of contract suit against Finch's company. I nodded. This ridiculous drama was finally drawing to a close. Isabel would never know that the news of my company's impending bankruptcy was just a ruse to get her to walk away with nothing. There were lawsuits, yes, but they were all part of a carefully orchestrated performance. Everything had been arranged in advance. The person now saddled with mountains of debt had changed. The day of my court hearing was bright and sunny. I hadn't felt this relaxed or able to appreciate the world around me in a long time. Leaving the courthouse, my lawyer frowned. Mr. Cole, Are you sure about suing them this aggressively, this quickly? The optics might. I smiled and clapped him on the shoulder. Don't worry. Everything we are doing is perfectly legal. We don't break the law here, do we? I got in my car and headed back to the office. From now on, I was still the enviable Julian Cole. And you, Isabel, you were now the rat everyone wanted to crush. All the pieces were in place. I had complete faith in Mark's ability to execute the plan. As the new hearing approached, Isabel started to feel that something was deeply wrong. Shedding the burden of my failing company should have been a reason to celebrate. But the news she was hearing from her old contacts was that my company was stabilizing, and it made her uneasy. No matter how meticulous my planning, a company this large, where she had worked for years, couldn't be completely silenced. News was bound to leak out, but it was too late. The damage was done. Carter noticed Isabel's restlessness and wrapped his arms around her from behind. She frowned, and after a long pause, she spoke. I need to see him again. Something about this feels wrong. Carter's face immediately darkened. Isabel, you're divorced. It's too late for regrets. And don't forget what you did. He will never forgive you. Don't worry, he added, trying to reassure her. Even if he gets through this, we still have other moves to make. Isabel looked at the man before her, swallowing the words she wanted to say. She had read the divorce agreement carefully. It stated clearly that after the divorce, all liabilities would be borne by Julian Cole alone. At the time, she had been ecstatic. But now, with time to think, she realized something. Such a complete and total surrender was not my style. And given my cautious nature, it was highly unlikely that a contract with such glaring flaws would ever have crossed my desk in the first place. In front of the courthouse, Carter held Isabel's hand, his eyes shooting daggers at me. Exactly 1 month ago, my company's legal battles had concluded. Since it was all a setup, the outcome was never in doubt. Immediately after, I had my lawyers file a suit against Carter Finch's company for breach of contract. After he signed the deal, he had been eagerly awaiting my default. Probably because he trusted Isabel so completely, he and his team never bothered to read the fine print of the revised contract. Not much had changed. My legal team had simply swapped the definition of Party A and Party B. At a glance, the two contracts looked identical. Traitors deserve to be nailed to a pillar of shame for all time. Julian Cole, you really think you've won? Carter sneered, his voice dripping with malice. I'm telling you, I'm not going to let you get away with this. I shrugged, not even bothering to engage with the idiot. His plan failed, and now all he had left were empty threats. What a pathetic fool. Did he really think that by latching onto Isabel, he could take a shortcut to the top? Knowing Isabel as I did, Carter would never see a single dime of the money she had squirreled away. Mr. Finch, wasn't this contract drafted by you and Ms. Vance together? You're such a good partner, I said with a smile, twisting the knife. He didn't appreciate the compliment. You. Carter lunged at me in a fit of rage. I gave a slight wave of my hand, and my bodyguard stepped forward, effortlessly blocking him. Mr. Finch, if I remember correctly, your total assets are somewhere around $100 million, yet you dare to sign a deal with a $10 billion liability clause. That's some serious ambition. Don't worry, I added, my voice light. You'll have the rest of your life to pay it off. Then, I turned my smiling gaze to Isabel. Ms. Vance, as for your fraudulent transfer of assets before the divorce, my lawyers are already preparing the lawsuit. Rest assured, I will make sure you live out your days in absolute poverty. As soon as the words left my mouth, the color drained from Isabel's face. She took a few steps forward, forcing a pained smile. Julian, I know I was wrong. Please don't be so cruel. You don't need the money, so why can't you just let this go? I looked at the woman in front of me as if she were a complete stranger. That's what she was, a stranger. In my eyes, Isabel wasn't even worthy of being called an enemy. A lion doesn't concern itself with the ants it crushes underfoot. Without another word, I turned and walked into the courthouse. I didn't actually need to be here today, but I wanted to see the looks on their faces when the verdict came down. Call it guilty pleasure. The outcome was, of course, never in doubt. When I stepped back outside, the bright sunlight felt like a new beginning. Julian, wait. A woman's voice called out from behind me, punctuated by the frantic clicking of high heels on pavement. I didn't need to turn around to know it was Isabel. Inside the courtroom, her face had shifted through a dozen shades of panic and despair. It was quite a show. Ms. Vance, my advice to you is to handle this yourself. It will save you a lot of pain in the long run. My cold words cut her to the quick. Tears streaming down her face, she felt her knees in front of me. Julian, I truly know I was wrong. It was all Carter's idea. He manipulated me. I know I messed up, but can't you find it in your heart to forgive me? I just shook my head at her pathetic, transparent performance. Isabel, my mistake was being too good to you. I let you believe the entire world revolved around you. Have you forgotten what I was like when I was building this company from nothing? Do you have any idea how I dealt with my enemies back then? She looked up at my face, a storm of complicated emotions in her eyes, bitterness, regret, loss. She couldn't even name what she was feeling. All her defiance finally crumbled into a desperate, groveling plea. I really know I was wrong. I'll give you back all the money I moved. Is that okay? I'll divorce him tomorrow. I'll disappear completely. I'm begging you, just let me go. She started bowing her head, banging her forehead on the concrete sidewalk. I frowned, not out of pity for her. It was because a crowd was starting to gather, their curious stares burning into me. As more and more people stopped to watch, I scowled and got into my car. Isabel was a cunning bitch. This whole act wasn't about earning my forgiveness. It was about creating a public spectacle. She wanted social media attention, hoping it would make it harder for me to make my next move. It was a clever tactic, and it did complicate things. My original plan was to have them both disappear within the week. It looked like that plan would have to change. But that was fine. If she didn't want the express train to hell, the slow, scenic route would work just as well. It would just take longer. In my rearview mirror, I could see Isabel holding her kneeling pose long after my car had pulled away. Despite the biting winter wind, she was committed to her role as the tragic, wronged woman. I could already guess the narrative she would spin. She had just made a mistake any woman could make, only to be ruthlessly cast aside by a heartless monster. Or maybe she'd add a few more lies, painting me as a cold, manipulative man who had toyed with her emotions. Soon enough, every asset Isabel had fraudulently transferred was recovered. All that was left to her name was a pitifully small bank account and the house in Cherry Creek North. Everything was done strictly according to the divorce agreement. At first, letting her keep the house was a concession on my part, a way to avoid a protracted fight over minor assets. Now, it felt like a blessing in disguise. If she didn't even have that house, who knows where the hell she would have run off to? Even a PI can't watch someone 24 hours a day. According to Mark's reports, Isabel had been like a ghost these past few weeks. The passion with Carter was long gone. They fought constantly. She had brought this on herself, and this was just the appetizer. I still had a feast prepared for her. I had given her a life of luxury, made her the enviable Mrs. Cole. But some people are never satisfied. She looked at the company's fortune and started to believe it was all hers. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. In those 5 years, my company had grown exponentially. We were now preparing for our IPO. In stark contrast to my success, Isabel and Carter were living in their own private hell. They fought almost daily, and at least once a week it turned physical. Every confrontation was ugly. Isabel had tried to file for divorce, but Carter refused to sign the papers. She had argued, screamed, begged, and even threatened him. But Carter's sheer shamelessness made her terrified to ever bring it up again. The look in his eyes was pure evil. Isabel had no doubt that even if she managed to divorce him, he would kill her. I had anticipated all of this. Carter Finch now had nothing but a mountain of debt. If he lost Isabel, he wouldn't even have a place to live. At least now, Isabel was still giving him money to survive. Without her, his only way out would be suicide. Of course, I hadn't left them completely alone. Over the years, debt collectors would show up at their door periodically. Some were legitimate creditors. Others were men I had hired. These men were not known for their subtlety. Some just threw paint on the house. Others were less restrained. By a conservative estimate, the pair had been physically assaulted over 100 times in 5 years. Carter had had his legs broken 3 times. Isabel's life was no better. She lived in a constant state of fear. The breaking point came when the collectors showed up again. This time, Carter tried to offer them Isabel to settle part of the debt. She finally snapped. She took a deep breath and looked at Carter, her face an emotionless mask. "I'm done with this life. Julian never intended to let us go. If we stay here, he will torture us until we are dead. Carter was completely bewildered by her sudden calm. He raised an eyebrow, his voice low. Yeah. So what are you saying? You want revenge? It's useless, he grumbled. I've thought about it. I even tailed Julian once, thinking I'd take him out with me. But he's surrounded by bodyguards. You can't get within 20 feet of him. Isabel cursed him silently. You pathetic idiot. He didn't even know his opponent's habits, and he thought he could pull off a murder-suicide. Carter might not know it, but she did. She knew they were being watched constantly. Isabel poured herself a glass of water and sat on the couch, her expression flat. This house is the only thing I have left. I've sold it. Carter's jaw dropped. He rubbed his ears, then forced a smile and took a step closer. Izzy, don't joke around. We're perfectly fine here. Why would you sell the house? Before Carter could finish, Isabel cut him off, her voice like ice. Because we have to get out of Denver, you moron. Do you have any money? Isabel took a sip of water. It's already arranged. I have the cash. We leave tonight. There will be people waiting for us at a private airfield. Once we're out of the country, we can get new identities. I'll give you a cut of the money. After that, we are done with each other. A slow, sinister smile spread across Carter's sullen face. You're the brains of this operation, aren't you? Fine. I'm in. As soon as we're on foreign soil, we go our separate ways. Isabel didn't seem offended. She just gave a slight, indifferent nod. 13. The private airfield was eerily quiet at night. The moment they stepped out of the car, two men led them onto a small plane. After a tense, overnight flight, they landed in a foreign country. Just as Carter was celebrating his newfound freedom, several short, burly locals slammed him to the ground. His eyes were wide with terror and rage. A guttural roar ripped from his throat. Isabel, what the hell is this? His only answer was her mocking laughter. Isabel walked over, grinding the heel of her heavy boot into Carter's face. What is this? This is because of you, you idiot. Because of you, I lost everything. Because of you, I was tortured for 5 years. Don't worry, Carter. You got a new home. I was surprised to find out how much you're worth. $500,000, can you believe it? When your organs are being shipped to every corner of the globe, I'll be in Europe praying for you. Isabel's words made the color drain from Carter's face. He knew exactly what she meant. But her moment of triumph was short-lived. The local men turned to her, their smiles devoid of any warmth. Ms. Vance, we didn't bring any cash with us today. You'll have to come with us to pick up your payment. Seeing the predatory grins on their faces, Isabel started to panic. What are you doing? This wasn't the deal. When the men didn't move, Isabel's demeanor shifted instantly. Gentlemen, please, keep the money. Consider it a tip for your troubles. I'll just be leaving now. She turned to run, only to find her path blocked by several more men. Her face went pale. Please, brothers, just let me go. I'll do anything you want. I can. Keep you company. Her offer was met with roaring laughter. After a long moment, the man who appeared to be the leader stepped forward. Ms. Vance, where you're going, you'll have plenty of opportunities to keep us company. Someone paid a lot of money for you to be here. You didn't really think you were some kind of player who could call the shots down here in Mexico, did you? With shocking speed, he lunged forward and clamped his hand around her throat, squeezing with all his might as if trying to crush her windpipe. I suggest you cooperate. It will make things easier for you. You don't want to end up like him, do you? He gestured toward Carter. The man didn't loosen his grip, even as Isabel started to choke. She clawed at his arm, a primal instinct to survive. Her vision started to tunnel. She couldn't hear what he was saying anymore. The suffocating darkness of near death washed over her, and in that moment of pure terror, she went limp. She stopped fighting. Just as she thought she was about to die, the man suddenly released his grip. You can't die. The client won't pay the final installment if you're dead. Isabel gasped for air, her lungs burning. It took several long moments for the feeling of impending death to recede. She looked up, her eyes filled with despair. Standing a short distance away was a familiar figure, a man in a black suit, silhouetted against the harsh morning sun. It was my assistant, Mark. Ms. Vance. Mr. Cole asked me to send his regards. He wishes you a pleasant journey. Long after the locals had dragged them away, Mark called me. Julian, it's done. The show is over. I hung up the phone and looked out my office window at the city below. Some people are not worth remembering. Some roads have no return. Tomorrow was the day my company would ring the opening bell at the stock exchange. This was a fitting celebration. I liked this gift very much.